Well, good afternoon or good evening if you're in the USA, and if you're in the Pacific Rim or overseas, it's a very wonderful Wednesday. And yeah, I'm going to come and say hi to Kevin in a minute. I'm Bruce, aka Mr. Simpler, Faster, Better, or the guy in the blue shirt. I'm known here on LinkedIn a lot. And quick shout out to a company called 𝒂𝒂𝒏. Kevin and I were just talking about doing our part for sustainability on the planet, and 𝒂𝒂𝒏 actually has new technology in form of a food digestion machine, and what they're doing is they're helping take food waste that's ending up in our landfill as raw food waste, and they're actually digesting it and turning it into a biodegradable byproduct in water. So good job, 𝒂𝒂𝒏, and I'm proud to give them a shout out this month as they try and raise awareness for their new technology. So Kevin and I were just chit-chatting offline here. So, Kevin, why don't you just say hi to people and tell us where you're from, and then we're going to get into our common ground. We've already found out about each other, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I am Kevin. I'm a military brat that grew up in a lot of places. I don't really. Honestly, if I could name a hometown, to be quite honest, the place I feel most tied to is it's Yokosuka, Japan. It's where I grew up from the age of 11 to 18, so it's kind of like the formative years.
Oh, okay.
So I have a pretty eclectic background and had the opportunity to travel a lot overseas as a kid. So that is where I come from. But today I come to you from the very sunny, it's not sunny, Seattle, which is very, very gloomy and cold, which is very weird because just last week it was like 105 degrees. So it's interesting times, Bruce. It's interesting times.
Oh, it's been pretty bizarre because I was actually end of July. I was up I have some business interests up there. I was actually up in Seattle and the Portland area, and yeah, it was like oscillating from super cloudy to darn hot, and of course. Not many homes are as equipped as they are in the South with AC and other amenities. So pretty crazy times. And, you know, maybe a byproduct of what we were just talking about, you know, sustainability on the planet, helping the planet to cool down would be a pretty cool thing to, no pun intended, pretty cool thing.
Oh, no, pun intended. No, pretty cool thing for sure.
Yeah, and then so I was impressed. So a little bit of background. I asked Kevin to join me live because I saw him with Jeanette and Valerie, and as we were talking offline, Kevin, the thing that impressed me was that your sense of service, and that was kind of how I was brought up in my early days of networking when I was based in Dallas, Texas, because they always used to say, you know, service is about give before you get. And I was impressed with how an early age in your career that you've taken that on board full swing. So perhaps talk a little bit about that and let us know maybe a couple of examples of what's happened by having that service rather than the selling mentality.
Yeah. Well, I can say that the reason why I have such a great perspective on the service mentality is because I had the seller's mentality for a long time. Mm-hmm. Getting out of college, my first job was as a door-to-door salesman, which of in itself is kind of like the ultimate sales job. It's, you know, 100% commission. You're knocking on doors. Every door represents a nominal figure. And, you know, there's a number that you have to get to. And so, you know, everything from then there on became very, very sales oriented. How much money am I going to make this year? How much effort I put in for how much reward would I get out of it? And, you know, through my 20s, through most of that time, it never served me in any way that illuminated a path that I thought would get us to better prosperity, to a better financial place, more financial freedom, or any of the things that I wanted. So the only reason why I understand service so well is because of that juxtaposition. But I started changing a little bit in my later 20s. And started to adopt what my mother had bestowed upon me, which is to kind of give first and service first. And so I'm just a huge believer that that we all have the ability to help somebody else. And I think too often we are just a bit too focused on ourselves and what's going on in our lives that we miss kind of the macro view and the perspective that we could gain from talking and serving others. Right. And so ever since I've kind of changed that, my life has changed. And so for an example, so the best example probably would be about, it's probably been about 10 months now. About 10 months. I lost my job at Amazon.
Right.
And it was the place where I put my entire identity into. And when I lost it, I lost a whole piece of me. And I had to get to this place out of a depression to understanding who I am and how I can serve this world. And that was to try to educate through entertainment. And that's what I started doing. So I'm in talent acquisition. I started creating content on LinkedIn around the talent acquisition space and helping individual job seekers. And so in a time of about 6 months, I helped between 400 to 600 job seekers in individual ways. That might be like helping out with a resume, helping out with the interview prep, just little things here and there to get them along. And little by little, I realized that by servicing and not worried about the result, the payment, the end goal of whatever it was, that I got further along in life and what I wanted. And so I was starting to realize that I was creating not only was I creating a habit, I was actually creating an identity, a lifestyle, a new identity, a new lifestyle. And so now, I'm Kevin, the recruiter that is willing to give up his time to help somebody else because he understands how much that matters to those people, because I was there 8 months ago unemployed when a lot of people helped me. And so, a lot of what I've seen is because I've gone through things and I've seen the other way, but the service path is the way. And I've just never gotten further along in life goals and relationship goals and communication goals than when I switched my mindset from selling to service.
Right. So I will come back to that. I just want to welcome on board, talking about service. Kenneth is a huge fan.
KDJ, what's up?
Big Kenny.
I love KDJ.
Gracie Ruth Melendez actually is a part of my hybrid team, and she is all about service and giving of herself and not selling. And in fact, I want to do a public shout out to Gracie. Gracie had to go through a pretty frustrating time with a non-service orientated moving company yesterday that ended up showing up late and went to the wrong storage unit, and then tried to give Gracie a hard time because he was trying to get him back on track. So
sorry, Gracie. It's ridiculous.
But you know what was good is she gave me that feedback, and then this morning I had an opportunity real early to give the company a call and said, hey, your guy is not best representing your brand, and then lo and behold, great example, they didn't really listen because he showed up late for the drop-off this afternoon as well. So I called him back again. I said, hey, you might like to know that this guy definitely is not representing. You know what was interesting is that they said, we really appreciate the feedback. We're going to take this on board and we're going to deal with it. And that all started because, Gracie was good enough to hang on and stay later at the pickup point than she, thought she was going to. So she put in the service with a smile, and I'm sure that company will be a whole lot better once they deal with. And it's just this one guy. He's just, he's not in alignment with the rest of the company. The rest of the company have been super service orientated, but this one guy has not been. So
it only takes one. And yeah, I bet you, like I know that, especially, being a recruiter. If you're a recruiter that's reaching out to a whole bunch of people and you don't do it in a very service oriented way, well, that's employer branding. Absolutely. So, if you're reaching out for a company like Amazon, maybe they're not going to shop at Amazon anymore because of that. Maybe Gracie won't be going to those movers and won't be telling anybody else about. Maybe they'll make her right, but she won't be, giving any. Won't be. You're not building any rapport. She's not giving any referrals to anybody. So
sure. Well, we'll figure it out. And you know, the owners, I'm sure, are very concerned. They actually pride themselves on being a family small moving company. And, you know, my job isn't to call them out. My job is to just give them feedback and saying, hey, this guy is probably not fitting with your family service model. And, you know, and if the customer doesn't tell them that, they're not going to know, you know, because I'm sure he's fine and dandy in front of the owners whenever he's talking to them. So
I'm sure he is.
So I also like to try and grab some fast tips on my Tuesday live. So tell us what little fast tips would you have, Kevin, for somebody that's maybe been in transactional selling and they're really struggling to jump over to service mindset? What would be maybe a couple of things that you would encourage them to do first of all, and how would they best do that? You know, just starting off.
I mean, it's going to come with education. So,
Right.
You know, the only reason why I was able to change my mindset is because I deliberately decided that mindset was wrong. And so you've got to come to a place where you decide that that's not the right way. Maybe you just don't find any success. Maybe your transactional numbers don't come in. Having those transactional relationships don't uplift you. Maybe you're dying inside. Maybe you're doing this all day, and on the outside you're like, everything's great. You know, you drive the nice car, got the nice house, but inside you're really just dying. Yeah. Well, you have to finally get to that place, and then you have to go through deliberate education. So I think you need to maybe pick up a book, maybe watch a YouTube series of folks that have gone through it, speak to people that have gone through it. But you know, I there's a saying, it's, you know, smart people learn from themselves and smarter people learn from other people. I think these are one of those cases where you have to take your own experiences, but then also learn deliberately from other people's experiences so that you can combine the two to start realizing. And the realization doesn't happen until you start doing. Right. So you can read a book, you can watch a YouTube video as much as you want, but if you're not looking to pay it forward, if you're not being proactive, some proactivity in the way in which you are less selling and more social, right, then it's not going to change. So there's no outside forces that are going to make that happen. It's going to be internal, and then you're going to just have a bias for action, and then you're going to do it. And through that bias for action, it's going to inform you more about you and how you affect your world and your community than you'll ever know. And I got to say, for me, it was getting here on LinkedIn and have the opportunity, I mean, to reach to people in different countries and different places and different cultures. Yeah. And that for me has meant the world in terms of better understanding, because that's what it all is, right? Empathy, right? It's understanding people's worldviews. And so you should want to understand people's worldviews. And the more and more you do, the more you do, the more you will realize that this world is not built on transaction. It's built on community, and it's built on social. Yeah. So to add to that, I always try and remind people, and it's been a hard, long lesson learned for me. And I try and be the product of my own process. But what I find is that there's really three pillars of, I guess, trust and foundation on LinkedIn. And first of all, you got to learn. And then the second thing is you got to prosper. And it's not monetary prospering. It's prospering either in that awareness of world affairs or prospering with other people that are from different cultures. And then you got to be willing to grow. I mean, you got to be willing to get down and dirty and roll up your sleeves. And I love your term action for bias, or bias for action, right? Yeah. Yep. You can talk all you want. I tell people, talk is cheap, action is priceless. That would be my tip. Is if you really want to grow, you got to take mega action, and then you got to be willing to put that into practice. So you got to be willing to do, and then become. People always want to become before they do, right? So that would be my big fast tip is, you know. Yeah, and to that point, you know, as a younger person, sorry, I had a little person. I got
Yeah, I'm live. He's helping.
he's helping something. As a younger person, I got pretty caught up in the kind of like the paralysis analysis of it all.
Yeah.
And so that's a piece too, and that's why that bias for action means so much, because when you recognize that you want to change and you start doing that deliberate work, it's so easy to get lost in tangents. It's so easy to just give it up because you don't take action. So you don't get that small win. You don't get those endorphins, those little hits that let you know you're on the right path. And so my biggest tip to people are, when you whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be necessarily this, but whatever it is that you realize when you start that education piece, you have to take one thing at a time, and then you have to apply it, and you have to put it in practice, or else it's just never going to stick. And so that's the biggest thing with this is I would educate myself. I would have a conversation with somebody, and if I learned something, I would try to apply it within my own life and try to apply it within my own relationships or my own communication on LinkedIn. And I got the best benefit out of it from that.
Right. Well, it's interesting because the bias for inaction is procrastination, right?
That's right.
Again, you can talk all you want, but if you don't do something different, then nothing changes. And that's kind of one of the foundations of my method of simpler, faster, better, is that if you want a different productive output from simple process, complicated process, you got to be able to change the productive input. And if you're not willing to change the productive input, which might be self-education, might be upgrading technology, it might be giving up some stuff to invest in other, if you're not willing to change the inputs, then you are never going to get a different outcome. And it's funny how people think that magically, just because you want it to be different, you got to work at it being different. And so, the productive inputs are so important. So.
Well, you were kind of saying it, and I heard it from my mom and my dad growing up. I wish I knew what you knew as a young person. And I hear that all the time from folks, and it's so much as just that. It's not only that, but it's also knowing what inputs to bring in, and then how to utilize those inputs to create the right outputs, kind of a deal. And so, it's a process. It's not fast, and you can't read a book and then it'd be over. It's going to be it's a lifelong process. I mean, I've had the opportunity to grow up overseas to see completely different cultures and completely different lifestyles.
Yep.
And I came back to the United States and adopted the exact, like nothing changed. So and it took another 10 years for me to get out of that mindset. So it's going to be a process, and it's just that deliberate action every day, little by little, that eventually gets you there. But you got to be deliberate about it. That's right.
Yeah, deliberate and strategic. I think if you have strategy, that's a big plus as well. And that's often what I end up helping people with. It's my number one given talent is strategy. So I leverage off of that as much as I can. But your point about overseas is I've worked in 5 different countries, and I've visited a lot more than that. And we have it pretty darn good here in the USA, and people don't realize until I would recommend, in fact, I think we should make it almost not mandatory, but highly advisable that in your university or higher education degree, you should go work in a underprivileged country for at least 6 to 9 months, because when you come back from that experience, you would never, ever complain about the USA again. So that's been my experience anyway. So.
No, 100%. And, I happen to grow up in Japan, which of in itself is a service oriented country. I mean, everything, all their customs and culture is first in service. And so I grew up in that, and I grew up, watching people bow to other people and have the utmost respect of the littlest things. Yep. And, having folks that are, sorry, one second. Poppy, Julius, 1 second. Thank you.
Cool. It's like a countdown to the moment, Kevin.
Yeah, basically. But so I had folks my grandmother and grandfather's age bowing to me, and so it had such a huge impact on me that again, coming back, I still had that foundation once I realized that that wasn't for me. But in terms of what you're saying, how much you can gauge from other places. I mean, nowhere is like the United States. So no matter where you go, they're going to be doing things differently. And you could obtain a lot from that. And I'd say more so than anywhere else I've been, at least for me, and I'm blessed to that point. Japan was that place that really taught me, like, just from start to finish, from birth to end, what a culture can be like when most everybody has a service mindset. It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's saying to you often that we'll always find something in common that we didn't know we had in common. And interestingly enough, in my late 30s, I did a pretty significant career move, sponsored by a company. Part of that is I said, hey, I want to be trained and educated properly. And they actually brought a guy over from Japan, and he actually coached me one-on-one. He wasn't Japanese, he was actually English. But he'd worked in the Japanese machine tool culture for a long, long time. And he was amazing because he taught me all sorts of stuff not to do. You know, instead of having to find out yourself, he would say, hey, don't do that, Bruce. And I always remember some of his concepts were like totally alien to me. It's like, you may not have to do that for free, or you may not have to, you know, he said, yep, you got to learn from up, you know.
That's right.
So yeah, there is an awesome culture to learn from the bottom up, and remember who to respect along the way for the lessons that they give. So,
yeah, Japan, they have it's the Toyota production system. I don't know if you're familiar. It's and so Kaizen is what it's called, continuous improvement, you know, change for the better. So I grew up understanding that. And then when I came back to the States, one of my first jobs was at a company that adopted Kaizen and the Toyota production. So that really is actually what kind of jump started. I was like, oh gosh, I'm starting to remember. And that actually, now that you're bringing me back, that's actually what kind of jump started me getting back to again.
I was, so I understand TPS, and I've done continuous or Kaizens for a long time. And that's sort of what my own method is based on a little bit. But I always remember I was working with a team not so long ago, and they said, hey, you're Kyoshi. And it's like, really? And I didn't know, but Kyoshi is the second highest honor to sensei. Sensei is the expert, but Kyoshi is the wizard. So they nicknamed me, hey, Kyoshi. And it was like, wow, what a
nice.
And
that's awesome.
People, it's funny because people outside of the circle, you know, of understanding that, they thought they were insulting me, but I was like smiling. It's like, man, to get awarded the title of Kyoshi, and what I did was just absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, never forgotten that moment. Tiny,
that's awesome.
Small little service things, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So kind of the same thing. I was on a Japanese baseball team, and I can't remember the name, but yeah, the just the level of respect from human to human that was afforded, just up and down. Again, you know, you come to the United States, if I'm on a little league team as a little kid, I'm going to get like talked to in a way that I'm going to know I'm the kid.
Right.
It's just different there. You know, they talk to you on a level that's like, you know, they try to, and it's anyway, we could talk about this forever. It's just a different way of life.
No, they understand mastery in a different way than we do.
Yes.
Recognize in a non-financial way that mastery is important, and that's the real significant difference. And that's why recognition and encouragement, I mean, talk about, especially when you're lost, or you're doing a career transition, or you're just, you know, feeling pretty down about yourself, even if it's circumstances you couldn't control. I mean, that's human emotion. And it's amazing if you can encourage and recognize somebody when they're in that moment in their life, it can make a huge difference. So,
well, that really goes to your transactional, and I think that's actually like at the heart of what's wrong with so many corporations these days is managers being very transactional, and quite honestly forgetting that the little people, you know, like us, we just want to be validated. We just want to be recognized. Like, and it's actually really easy to do those things. And so I think what happens oftentimes is a lot of these corporations, they get management and think that they have to move mountains for people, when that's actually not the case. No. It's just the most simplistic things are actually the things that move mountains for people. And so that's, you just made me think about that. That is the issue I see with corporate America today.
Well, I've seen verify and validate instead of virulate is, but a lot of corporations, especially when they're under pressure, under a lot of change, they forget the whole verify and validate. They go into virulate and try and drive harder and harder, and it actually pushing harder, you know, the people only push back harder, equal and opposite action. So it doesn't really drive them forward. It can harm their long-term growth in a way. So.
And I think that's a lot of what you're seeing in the job market with the great resignation is this last year and a half. People have been pushed harder than I think necessary. And I know a lot of those people working from home, and advantage was taken of that. And people got a taste, and they were like, you know what? I don't want this.
Right. It's not worth it anymore, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, man. So I want to be respectful of your time as a new. So for those of you that don't know, Kevin is a new dad of 2 weeks to another boy. So congratulations.
Pray for me.
Ooh, probably no sleep. And I want to be respectful of his time. He's on a pretty tight schedule there, doing daddy duty and doing a live with me. So what's the best way that you would have people watch out for you?
But I just want to answer one question. Crystal, it was the Tigers. What was the mascot on the Japanese baseball team? We were the Yokosuka Tigers.
Okay, you saw that. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where can you find me? Probably the best place would be LinkedIn. That is that's my social. I don't Instagram. I don't Facebook. I don't whatever else there is out there. I don't even know. TikTok. I LinkedIn. So that's the best place you can find me. Please feel free to message me. I'm a pretty amicable guy. I do love people, like really, not joking, like people. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat if there's something you want to chat about.
Sure. And do you have any big events coming up, or any big? I mean, obviously,
other than
being a dad is pretty.
Nah, that is taking the time right now, and I was just literally talking about this with somebody. As much as I'd love to come back to LinkedIn and be with my family and my community and chat and comment, I just need a brain to function to do that. So I'm hoping to get back into my community and to chat with everybody. And here you go. You want to make a quick? All right.
Oh,
you want to say hi?
Look at that. Hello. Hey, look at that. Isn't he beautiful?
We're just at the end. Say bye, Julius.
Bye.
Oh, that's Julius?
This is Julius.
I'm Bruce. I'm the guy in the shirt, Julius.
That's Bruce. Say hi, Bruce.
Bruce. Oh, yeah. All right. Good job. Thank you for being.
And it happened. There we go. I knew he was gonna show his face. He always has to get his 15 seconds. It's kind of ridiculous, actually. It's kind of obnoxious.
He's cute, man. He's on to big success. So yeah, I'm honored to have schedule. So thank you for your commitment. It's super important, Kevin. And as you know, showing up is job number one. You know, I could have easily called off the live, not in my normal, but we still.
Heck yeah, it was a pleasure, and it was absolutely a pleasure to talk to you and meet you more.
All right, man. If you hang on for a minute, yes, if you're watching this as a replay, you can put hashtag replay and put your question or comments in there. And I know between Kevin and I, a few days ahead, we'll come back in and answer any questions. We probably missed a bunch in the comments, but I can't even see them other than quick names on my iPhone. So.
And if I may, thank you guys, everybody, so much for showing up, and thank you for commenting and hanging out with us. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks again. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.